for pre-need funerals, burials, or cremation since 1975. Curtis and Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg. Funeral service for Thomas Perry Andrews, age 72, of Sylacauga, is this afternoon at 2 p.m. from Sylacauga's First Baptist Church. Reverend Rick Patrick, along with Reverend Tony Cunningham and Reverend Carol Andrews officiating. Visitation prior to the service, 12:30 until 2 p.m. In lieu of flowers, a family asset donation be made to the First Baptist Forward in Faith or to the Gideons International. Online condolences at CurtisandSonFH.com. Curtis and Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, directing. Funeral service for Mrs. Shirley Kissick of Sylacauga will be this morning at 10 at Curtis and Son North. Burial in the Tallahatchie Cemetery. Online condolences at CurtisandSonFH.com. Curtis and Son Funeral Home, North Chapel, directing. And funeral service for Mr. Johnny Hudgens of Vandiver will be Saturday at noon from the Vandiver Church of God. Visitation 10:30 until noon at the church on Saturday as well. Curtis and Son Funeral Home, Childersburg Chapel, directing. In other obituary news this morning, funeral service for Irvin D. Cochran, age 89, of Goodwater, is today at 1 o'clock from the chapel of Radley Smith Funeral Home. Reverend Wally Resendez officiating. Burial in the Mount Olive Baptist Church Cemetery in Goodwater. Mr. Cochran died Saturday, July the 6th at his residence. Visitation prior to the service, 11 until 1 today at the funeral home. Memorial messages may be sent to the family at radleysmith.com. Radley Smith Funeral Home, directing. Funeral service for Mrs. Lily Elma Fincher, age 85, of Pell City, will be 11 o'clock Thursday at Harvest Church of God in Golden Springs with Bishop Jerry Irwin, along with the Reverend Don Maddox and Dr. Terry Hart officiating. Of course, Dr. Hart is administrative bishop for the Church of God in Alabama. Private burial service will follow at Coosa Valley Church of God Cemetery in Cropwell. The family will receive friends today from 6 until 8 o'clock this evening, and from 10 o'clock until 11 o'clock on Thursday at the church. Mrs. Fincher died July the 8th at her home. And, of course, she and Brother Fincher were pastors, Reverend Louis J. Fincher, and she is survived by Brother Fincher of 65 years. And they pastored over in Childersburg for quite a number of years. A lot of people in this area know them. And K.L. Brown Memory Chapel at 620 Golden Springs Road in Anniston, directing that service. Online condolences can be sent to klbrownfuneralhome.com, and that's a funeral service for Mrs. Lily Elma Fincher, age 85, of Pell City. Heather Robinson, age 23, died Friday in Sycamore, Radley Smith Funeral Home, announcing. Carol Faye Holsey, age 71, of East Aboga. She died July the 8th. Funeral service will be 2 o'clock today at Ursary Funeral Home Chapel in Talladega. Burial in the East Aboga Baptist Church Cemetery. Brother Kevin Jones will officiate the service. The family will receive friends 1 hour prior to the service. Miss Holsey is a native and longtime resident of East Aboga up in North Talladega County. She is a member of the East Aboga Baptist Church, Ursary Funeral Home in Talladega, directing online condolences at ursaryfuneralhome.com. Funeral service for Mr. Jerry Lee Pope, age 58, is Thursday at Community Funeral Home Chapel in Sylacauga at 1 o'clock, with Pastor Tony Smith officiating. Visitation today at the funeral home from 1 until 8. Mr. Pope died July the 4th at Coosa Valley Medical Center in Sylacauga. Online condolences at communityfuneralhome.org. Community Funeral Home in Sylacauga in charge of the arrangements. James Stephen Robinson, age 44, died July 5th. Visitation will be 5 until 6 o'clock at Talladega Funeral Home on Friday. A memorial service will follow in the chapel at 6 p.m. on Friday. Mr. Robinson was a lifelong citizen of Talladega and employed by Legacy Cabinets. In lieu of flowers, donation can be made to the St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, Talladega Funeral Home directing. Deloy Cook, age 32, died July the 8th. Terry's Metropolitan Mortuary announcing. Mr. Perry Dates, age 89, died July 9th. Community Funeral Home in Sylacauga will announce the arrangements. Funeral service for Mr. Bobby Garrett of Goodwater. It's 2 o'clock Thursday at Paradise Mission Full Gospel Church with interment in the church cemetery. Wright's Funeral Home directing. Funeral service for Mrs. Ethel Smith will be noon today at Rocky Mount Baptist Church with interment in the church cemetery. Wright's Funeral Home directing. Funeral service for Mrs. Nola Bush Oden, age 87, is today at Scotts Grove Missionary Baptist Church in Vincent at noon. Minister James M. Oden III officiating. Burial in the Harpersville Memorial Cemetery. Community Funeral Home directing. And funeral service for Mrs. Gail Isabel Martin, age 82 of Talladega. The service is today at 11 a.m. from Ursary Funeral Home Chapel in Talladega, with Reverend Don Barnett officiating. Burial in the Pine Hill Memorial Park. In lieu of flowers, a family request donation be made in Gail's honor to her home church, Trinity United Methodist Church, P.O. Box 378, Talladega, 35161. Online condolences at ursaryfuneralhome.com. Ursary Funeral Home in Talladega in charge of the arrangements. These obituaries this morning are brought to you by Curtis & Son Funeral Home, the North Chapel on Highway 21 in Sylacauga, the Childersburg Chapel on Highway 280 in Childersburg, 256-245-4361. For pre-need funerals, burials, or cremation since 1975, Curtis & Son Funeral Home, Sylacauga, Childersburg.